Hi everyone, welcome back to Gardening with Melon. I'm here in the garden with my dad. Say hi, Dad.
Hi.
We got Jack over here somewhere. Where'd he go? Oh, he went to take a little snooze, but I'll show you. Here he is. Hi, Jack. And I think Cusco is inside getting away from the heat, even though it's morning, it's already pretty hot out. So today I'm gonna show you the progress of our garden, show you some fruits and vegetables that are ready to be harvested. That means being picked. And then we're gonna talk a little bit about weeding and how we make sure to thin out our plants so that they can all thrive. So first, let me show you the progress of the garden. So over here, we got all of our corn and our sunflowers. They don't have sunflowers on them yet, but they will. And we have so much corn. We got them at different stages. We've been planting them every week, so we have some tall ones, some medium, some small, and then some very tiny ones down here. So we do this so that we can continuously have corn throughout the summer. Also, we have our cucumbers. They're doing great. They're down here. Our tomato plants are doing awesome. And we even have even more strawberry flowers. See, this one's gonna become a beautiful strawberry. So let me show you some of the food we have to harvest. So over here, in the small little planting pot that we haven't shown too much, we have our first ripe strawberry. It is right here. It's a little pink, but it's gonna be delicious, so I'm gonna go ahead and pick that. There we go. And I'm excited. I'm gonna wash it in the sink and then I'm gonna devour this. So I'm gonna set it aside for now. We also, we have a lot of fruit trees in the backyard that we haven't really talked about before, but I wanted to show you some of them. So over here, we have our cherry tree. So this is our cherry tree. As you can see, there's some pink and red spots with some cherries, and there's a cherry. Where is it, Dad? He saw a really ripe cherry the other day. So let me see if I can. There it is. Go ahead and pick that, Dad. Nice. Can I have it?
Uh-huh.
Here is our first ripe, delicious cherry, all grown on our tree. And as you can see, there are lots of little cherry, pink little spots that will become red, ripe cherries. We're so excited to eat them. These ones actually are delicious even when they're kind of pink. So cherries come into, they become ripe at different times. Some cherries are kind of yellowish when they're ripe, some are red, some are pink, and these are pink ones. So I'm excited to wash that and eat this also. Will you take this cherry? Also over here, we have our apricot tree. I love apricots. I don't know if you've had them before, but they're about this big and they become orange. They're really delicious, and right now they're not ripe, but we have a ton of them all over. So once they become orange, we'll know they're ripe, but you can see they're all up in the tree. So we're gonna have tons and tons of apricots. Once they start getting ripe, we always have to put a lot of netting around the tree because we have squirrels in our backyard and they love to eat unripe apricots. So they eat it about a week before we want to eat them, and then we have no apricots. So I'll show you once we have the netting up to protect our delicious apricots. Another thing we have is we have grapes. So we've had these grapes for a long time. Their branches stay all year round, but then their leaves come in the summer. And as you can see, there are all these little tiny, let me see, where's a better spot? Right here. These are all gonna become grapes. So some of them are flowering still or have already flowered. Because remember, a plant needs to have a flower first and then it will become its fruit. And all of these are gonna become delicious grapes. They're green grapes and they're a little smaller than the ones that you might find in the store. But they are definitely much sweeter. So they're really delicious. So, oh, we also have a ripe tomato. It's not in my planter box, but it is in my dad's. We like to have our own planter boxes. Oh, before we get to that, we have our peach tree over here. They're still all tiny. Peaches are usually bigger than your fist. They're kind of fuzzy. They're ripe when they're lots of different colors when they're ripe. They can be orangish or reddish or pink, but right now they're green, so they're not ready yet, and they're small still. And in our peach tree, one of our tomatoes has actually climbed up. It started down here and it went all the way up here. And it's in our peach tree, which is very silly. Usually you don't have your plants in other trees, but we have our first red ripe tomato, our cherry tomato. So I'm gonna pick it. It doesn't want to let go. Ah, I dropped it.
That was actually from last year.
Here we go. I dropped it, but we're still gonna rinse it off, so it'll be good. Here you go, Dad. He's the keeper of the fruit right now. Awesome. So you've gotten to see a lot of our awesome fruit that are growing on trees, or our tomatoes in our garden. So we're really happy I got to share that with you. And now I want to talk a little bit about weeding. So in our garden, there's always plants that like to grow that we didn't plant there. So weeds are usually really, really good at growing kind of anywhere. Think about when you're on a walk and you see a crack in the sidewalk and there's plants poking through. Those are all weeds. They are so good at surviving, even growing out of basically just concrete with just a little bit of dirt. So as you can imagine, they probably grow pretty well in our nutrient-rich soil. So it's our job to pick them out to help make sure that there's room in our garden for the plants we want to grow, because they need space, they need the water, and if the weeds grow really big and block all the sunlight, it'll make it so that the plants we want to grow won't be able to live. So right here, all of these little things, these are all little weeds. So you want to pull it up all the way from the root. See how spiky these leaves are? Not all weeds are spiky, but some of them are. And I didn't get all the root, which isn't good because that means that the root will still be in the soil and it will be able to grow again. So we're probably gonna have to weed that one again. And I'm gonna throw it in a pile that we're gonna put in the compost later. Here's another weed. You wanna pull it nice and slow so you don't break the roots off into the soil.
Moist soil.
And see, it's got all the root here. Yeah, and you wanna make sure the soil is moist because that way the roots will be looser and it'll be easier to pull out. So we have a ton over here, so I'm just gonna pull them all out as quick as I can while getting the roots. My dad's doing another part. Sometimes I don't get all the roots, but that's okay. You have to weed often when you garden. You probably weed every day or every other day, and you just try to keep up on it. And then something that we do, that a lot of gardeners do, is they put some kind of mulch over the dirt that's exposed, that doesn't have any plants, to help make sure that weeds can't grow. So we have some grass clippings here. So they're from mowing the lawn, and they're these little pieces of grass. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna cover our garden bed with all the grass after we pick out all the weeds. And it does a couple things. Like I said, it helps make sure that weeds can't grow, because if they're trapped under grass, it's harder for them to poke up through it and get sunlight, which they need to survive, right? So it makes it a little harder for them to start growing. Also, it helps create another dry layer on the top of the soil that makes it so that all the water can stay in the soil underneath. So you think about a really hot summer's day and how the dirt or the ground gets really, really hot and it has no moisture in it. When the sun shines its light onto the soil, all the water evaporates, it comes out of the soil, and that's hard for plants, right? They want to have moist soil so that their roots are always wet and they can always be getting water. So we want to help keep water in the soil, so we put some, we're doing grass clippings on the top to help keep that water in. And then another good thing is that grass is really rich in nutrients. It has a lot of nitrogen and potassium in it, so when we put it on top of the soil, it seeps into the soil and helps get lots of really good nutrients into the soil, which plants love. So as you can see, my dad is over here and he's been sprinkling the mulch, just kind of sprinkling it on to do a light layer first. You can do more later. And it's just,
make sure you get underneath the crawling things.
Yeah, you want to make sure you get underneath plants that are low to the ground that move around, because it'll also make it harder, you know, for bugs to get up to the plant.
And you just don't want it to be wet. You want to apply it so it stays dry.
Yeah, and what he just said is you want to make sure that it's kind of dry. If it's really wet, it'll just attract bugs and it'll kind of do the opposite of what you want. So that is what we have done today. I would also like to let you know, I put up these cages yesterday. I had mentioned that I was gonna do it, And one thing that you always have to do when you have cages, you have to make sure that the plant doesn't get stuck under it. So right here, we have our tomato plant. Will you help pull the plant through? And look, we gotta make sure there's this long branch, that it's up and going through. So that helps it grow up instead of getting squished down and going out. Because we want our plants to grow up and we wanna support them with this cage. So we're gonna go through and we're gonna keep making sure to weed and then add more mulching. And then we're gonna talk about thinning probably next week because I've kind of run out of time. But basically what we're gonna do is right here, we have all this corn and we accidentally planted a ton of corn right here. It's supposed to be several inches apart, but we must have like dropped the corn seeds or something. So we're gonna just pull out some of the corn just like that, because if the corn is too crowded, if it's too close together, it's not gonna live because it's not gonna, they're all gonna be competing against each other to get sunlight and to get nutrients and to have a good spot for their roots, and then they're all just gonna die instead of surviving. So we did that with the corn. We're gonna do that with make sure to go through the garden and make sure that there's not too many places where the plants are too crowded because they need their space. They like being kind of close to each other sometimes, but not too close. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us today, and I cannot wait to see you all next week. Bye. Say bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.